Hello, hello, and welcome back to yet another NFL Draft Grades video. I missed a day, but brother, please, 8 videos in 8 days is not as easy as I thought it would be. I didn't think it'd be easy, but yeah, it got the better of me. 8 vids in 9 days is now the goal. We are finishing up the NFC West draft grades. I am a Seahawks fan, so there may be a little bit of bias involved, but honestly, I felt like I was actually harsher on some Seahawks picks than a lot of people were. We're going to get to that when we get to that. But thank you for watching. Let's hop straight into the draft grades here. How y'all doing, man? I'm doing wonderful tonight. All right. Starting off with the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, Niners last season ended an amazing kind of run that they were on. I mean, the Niners under Kyle Shanahan are either terrible, like 3, 4, 5, 6 wins, or they're making the NFC Conference Championship game. That is literally every single year. Kyle Shanahan has been there. He's won 6 games or less, or made the conference championship game. Last year ended, I think, 3 straight seasons where they had made the championship game, and yeah, certainly a surprisingly bad season for the Niners, followed by a terrible offseason where it seems like they just lost everybody and they did not re-sign anybody of note. Some guys who had been there for years and years and were fan favorites left the team, and now they're kind of scrambling on the verge of paying Brock Purdy $50 million a season. They're trying to figure out how they can field a competitive team in this new era, if you will. So let's look at how they addressed all those concerns via the draft. First up, we got Mykel Williams here. I think it was their best pick, number 11 overall. You know, I might have actually had this pick mocked them at some point. I definitely had James Pierce going here. So the Niners with number 11, they had so many needs that you could have convinced me of. You could have convinced me of Josh Simmons right here at number 11. You could have convinced me of even a wide receiver, but you could have convinced me of certainly edge rusher. I definitely thought that was a need. I think Jalen Walker or Jahad Campbell to replace Dre Greenlaw would have been interesting. I thought cornerback, certainly. Will Johnson here, I would not have been mad at. Even Jade Barron. So there's like 5 or 6 guys that could have went here that would not have shocked me. Mykel Williams, one of the many edge rushers that I saw potentially going here. It's a day one starter. I mean, you lost Leonard Floyd. Well, let's talk about what happened. They cut Leonard Floyd, cut him in order to make room for signing Joey Bosa, who, by the way, is not better than Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd, the last 4 years, has like 40 sacks. Joey Bosa probably has like 15 or 16. Okay, so get that out the way first. So they cut Leonard Floyd to try and sign Joey Bosa, and then Joey Bosa signed with the Bills. So they are let completely wide open on their opposing edge rusher next to Joey Bosa. They try and fill that hole with Mykel Williams. I thought it was their best pick. I didn't think it was an amazing value pick. A+ is reserved for some really star picks. I think it's a good pick though. He's a developmental player. Think Trayvon Walker a couple years ago out of Georgia. However, Mykel Williams now gets to always play against the opposing team's second best tackle because he's playing opposite of Nick Bosa, and he's going to get double teamed, leaving way more one-on-one opportunities for Mykel Williams. I think that might excel his development process a little bit. And keep in mind, Robert Saleh is now the defensive coordinator of the 49ers again. So I don't know. I mean, he just seems like it seems like a bunch of young defensive line picks. Think Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw. What was the other guy's name? I forgot the other guy's name. It's like if you're thought to have been a bust, Robert Saleh is going to get the absolute most out of you as a young defensive lineman. So I think Mykel Williams in good hands. I think he'll turn into a pretty good player in San Francisco. Next up, we got Alfred Collins, number 43, defensive tackle out of Texas. Um, Defensive tackle is certainly an issue. They got rid of Eric Armstead a couple years ago. They recently lost Javon Hargrave as well. So certainly defensive tackle is a position of need. And I could even see Alfred Collins working his way into being the day one starter, depending on how hard he works this offseason. But I see 3 great cornerbacks on the board at number 43, Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison, and Trey Amos. So don't get me wrong. I understand taking defensive tackle, but I feel like you could have addressed that later on, and you're not going to see. I mean, this was the last chance they had to get one of those elite cornerbacks, right? So I think that was a missed opportunity, but I still give Alfred Collins pick a B+ because you're filling a position of need with a pretty good player. Next up, we got Nick Martin at number 75. He is going to be the Dre Greenlaw replacement here. Um, So I gave that a B plus. Like I said, position of need, filling it with a guy. Will he be a day one starter? Most likely. He did miss time. He missed like 7 games, I think, last season with a knee injury. So yeah, definitely definitely the next Dre Greenlaw when you're missing a lot of time due to injury. But yeah, all jokes aside, he's a good player. Oklahoma State, I think he had like 6 sacks a season or two ago. So unlike Dre Greenlaw, he might be able to actually generate some pressure, get downhill. So I like the pick for the Niners. Nick Martin at 75. It gets pretty downhill from here though as we go on here. So next up, Upton Stout, cornerback out of Western Kentucky. Now I mentioned earlier, cornerback was a massive need. Problem here is that, by the way, actually, before I move on, let's go back to the Nick Martin pick for 1 second. So I just want to mention a couple really good players that were available here at this Nick Martin pick. Jared Wilson, consensus best center in the draft. Shavon Revel, cornerback with amazing upside. Wyatt Milam, great guard prospect. All of those guys available, but they decided to go with Nick Martin at this spot. I just want to keep that in mind moving forward. Number 100, they addressed the cornerback position, but he's 5'9". It's just a fact. How many First of all, there are no boundary corners in the league that are that good, 5'9" or less, right? Is there a single cornerback that you can think of who has been a Pro Bowler recently that's 5'9" or shorter? I can't think of any. I'm not saying this guy is going to be a bum or anything like that. It is simply cornerback is one of those positions where I really do feel like there is a floor in terms of height. Like I just 5'9" cornerback. It's tough, man. It's tough. Maybe they can put him in the nickel, but I thought Diamador Lenore played in the nickel. Maybe I'm mistaken there. But yeah, I really don't feel like this helps their cornerback problem because I see a backup nickel corner with this pick when they need a starting boundary corner. So it's really almost like they didn't even draft the position they were really looking for, even though he is technically listed as a cornerback. What I'm saying is they should have taken Shavon Revel with the last pick, and then at this pick they could have taken Nick Martin or even Marcus Mbow, the offensive guard. So it's just I feel like they misplayed their hand right here. I feel like they could have taken Shavon Revel with their last pick and then maybe tried to take a guy like Nick Martin with this pick. I feel like they kind of mismanaged that a little bit here. Next up, CJ West, sorry, defensive tackle out of Indiana. I'm giving this one a C. I did not like this pick. We're talking about doubling up on defensive tackle when you still have not addressed the offensive line. And by the way, I have to mention, so during the draft, the 49ers fans in their own Instagram comment section were begging, clamoring for offensive line, right? And this is the funny part, right? Every single pick, the 49ers fans would be like, there'd be like, so obviously you have the majority of the fans, right, congratulating the guy on getting drafted, liking the pick, right? Then you have the small minority of people begging for offensive line, right? That small minority continued to grow with each post, and the replies to those people would be, shut up, stop complaining. We're going to get offensive line later. Keep that in mind as we continue to move forward here. So you double dip on defensive tackle. I do not think, all due respect, I do not think CJ West is going to do anything for you, at least this upcoming season. I think it was a reach of the pick, by the way. ESPN had this guy rated way lower than 113. And yeah, no offensive lineman, but you draft a backup D tackle. Interesting. Gave that a C. Next up, Jordan Watkins. I like the player. But and listen, the 49ers, they do not have some elite wide receiver room either. But I just do not think they needed receiver at this spot at all. And I also think it's a reach. I felt like you could have got a guy in the 7th round who I think would have been just as good, if not better, than Jordan Watkins, rather than drafting Jordan Watkins at 138. So I think it was a reach. I also think it was unnecessary. I don't think Jordan Watkins is going to burst on the scene and take snaps away from Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, or Ricky Pearsall. And yet again, no offensive line here. I wouldn't be saying it if it wasn't a problem, right? 49ers fans understand how bad their offensive line was last year. They did not do anything to address it in free agency. Rather, they lost their backup tackle to the Chiefs. So it's like, I have to say it because it's important. If my Seahawks were in the exact same situation, I would be going way harder than I am right now. So next up, number 147, they draft Jordan James. The reason I like this pick, I think it was good value to get a guy like Jordan James at 147. And of course, the Niners, with the Niners running back system, it does not matter who you are. If you get in there and you play, you will shine. They lost, what's his name? Mason. is it Jeff Mason or whatever his name was. They lost him to the Vikings, so they needed another guy in that room. Isaac Guerendo is their RB2, and with McCaffrey's injury history, you definitely need more than two running backs who you can count on. So Jordan James being RB3 on the Niners is a really important spot to be in. So I think Jordan James is a real good value pick there at 147. They gave that a B. Might have been their steal of the draft. Moving on, 160, Marcus Sigel out of Kansas State. At first, I wasn't too fond of this pick. Then I realized I think Malik Mustafa tore his ACL at the end of last season. So who knows if he'll play next season or when he'll be ready to play. So at first, I thought this pick was a C because it passed on guys like Miles Frazier, Cam Williams. You pass on guys like that on the offensive line to draft a third or fourth string safety. However, when I realized that the Malik Mustafa injury took place, I bumped this up from a C to a B. So it was actually much better upon review. And by the way, guys, I do thorough investigation here. I took the time to make sure that Malik Mustafa guys like that were healthy before I just graded this pick. And when I found that out, I swerved. I changed my opinion. So you got to give me credit there. Next up, Curtis Rourke, 7th-round pick, Indiana. I hate it. I have explained my philosophy on this channel half a dozen times, maybe a dozen times by now. I am wholeheartedly against drafting backup quarterbacks if you have a young guy that you believe in. Obviously, the Niners are going to pay Brock Purdy. The only question is how much. There is just no reason on God's green earth. Here's the thing. You can sign an undrafted free agent if you think that like they bring some sort of value to your team. Spending a draft pick on a position that if like that just won't do anything for you. Like Curtis, he's just wasting a roster spot. No disrespect, because here's the thing: if you want a backup quarterback, go get a veteran. Go get a veteran where you know what they can do for you. Curtis Rourke, you have no fucking clue what he can do if he can pick up the playbook, anything like that. So that's my problem with that. Uh, but yet again, no offensive line. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. So with number 249, the 49ers go up and pick up a guy who was not this guy is not some steal. He wasn't some diamond in the rough 4th-round grade that fell to the 7th. They pick up a guy who was an undrafted free agent grade at the end of the 7th round. And all the 49ers fans in the comment section were saying, "Oh, you guys can shut up now. We gotta here's our lineman, guys. You guys can quit complaining." An offensive lineman who won't make the roster. That doesn't. Connor Colby in the 7th round. This is breaking news for some dumbass 49ers fans. He does not fix your offensive line issues whatsoever. I hate to tell you. It was it I honestly I feel bad for the minority of intelligent 49ers fans who look at this draft and say, "Hold on, we're drafting 5th string defensive tackles and 4th string wide receivers before we address our offensive line concerns." That's a problem. They get shunned in the 49ers community for having some sort of sense about them. So I feel bad for those guys. And number 252, Junior Burgeon. I don't think either of these two guys are going to make the roster. Neither of these guys are steals at the end of the 7th round, so I'm not going to grade either of those picks. Man, 11 picks, 11 picks, 0 offensive linemen who are going to make the roster. That's kind of shocking in my opinion. They drafted as many quarterbacks as they did offensive linemen in this class. 49ers fans should be very concerned about the state of their offensive line. And on top of that, no impact players on the offensive side of the ball. The 49ers offense was not good last year. It just wasn't. I mean, obviously they had some injuries with guys like Ayuk and McCaffrey, obviously. Debo is so bad that he got kicked off the team, but it's like, man, you would think that they would try and help it out somehow in the draft. But no, that was not their prerogative. A lot of picks spent on the defense here. And honestly, it was kind of a downward slope. Their first 3 picks I thought were pretty valuable, all on the defense, of course. Then after that, it got kind of rough. So my overall grade for the Niners here, 4.94. Is that the lowest? It would take a while to scroll. I'm going to do it. I'm going to scroll all the way back to whatever it was. I think it was the Saints. Were they the other lowest here? I'm not even sure. Saints 5.22, so lower than the Saints. Any NFC North team here a lower grade than that? Oh wait, okay, yeah. So Packers, Vikings, but they were worse than both those teams. I'm not gonna lie to you. Whole NFC East was pretty solid here, but yeah, Niners. I don't know, man. I just because I gave them a C plus, right? So that does mean that I felt like they were the worst draft that we've seen so far. I mean, I honestly believe that. It's just because passing up on players that would be massive upgrades at different positions, not valuing certain picks. It's just to have 11 picks, and come away with no impact players on the offensive side of the ball. That's tough, man. And I feel bad for 49ers fans. I really do. So moving on. I have to hate on the Niners when when situations like this happen. When the Niners win 6 games last year, when they have a terrible offseason, when they have a terrible draft, I have to call it out and really just dance on their graves, if you will. Now, Cardinals. They saw a little bit of improvement in 2024 compared to 2023, mainly because they got Kyler Murray back healthy. Now, he did not look good or even, above average for that matter, but they did see some improvement. Jonathan Gannon seems to be trending in the right direction. Let's see what they did here in the draft to continue with an interesting. I mean, they got what's his name? They paid Josh Sweat a lot of money. That was kind of their big name acquisition. Also brought back Calais Campbell. So keeping on that trend of defensive line, they spend their number 16 pick on Walter Nolan. I have mocked Walter Nolan to the Cardinals before, was not shocked by this pick whatsoever. I was kind of shocked they passed on Will Johnson, but yeah, we'll get to that pick later. Um, so defensive tackle and corner, I feel like were their two biggest needs by a mile, and they addressed them both handsomely in their first two picks. Walter Nolan at 16, I think it's really good value. I think he's a day one starter. I think he's versatile, can play both D tackle and defensive end. Honestly, all pro potential. I would not be shocked if Jonathan Gannon turns this guy into an absolute stud. I mean, he has all the talent in the world, right? So yeah, I give this pick an A. It was an amazing pick. Normally, if a team made an A pick, it would be their best pick in the draft, but that is not the case because the Cardinals somehow got Will Johnson at number 47. Man, how on earth did this happen? How did the league let this happen? I don't know. Steal the draft. There are a couple picks. I mean, Mike Green to the Ravens. What else? I mean, Shedeur in the fifth round or fourth round, whatever it was. I think it was fifth round. Shedeur in the fifth, Mike Green to the Ravens, Will Johnson 47. Those are the three picks, honestly. Steals the draft. I mean, I just don't know. And listen, there are reports that Will Johnson has degenerative knee injuries or whatever the hell that means. And listen, when Harbaugh passed on him, when the Chargers were on the board, that's how I knew it was serious because like he was the last guy that I thought would ever pass on a guy like Will Johnson. So listen, Will Johnson was my number 6 player in the entire class. He was even higher according to some other people. I don't care. At this point, you got to clap it up for the Cardinals for taking a shot on a guy who is just all the talent in the world. Maybe he's not the fastest guy, but his tape, his instincts, the way he breaks on the ball, this guy is a special talent. Okay, and you take a shot on a guy like that at number 47, right? It's an A plus to steal the draft, all of that and above. Position of need, all pro potential. I mean, this guy he checks all the boxes, right? And degenerative knee injury, I mean, that's to be determined, right? It's just I don't know. I don't. We have to wait and see. But as of right now, this pick is an A plus. Next up, we got Jordan Burch, number 78, edge rusher out of Oregon. Good value on this pick. I saw this guy rated in some people's top 50. My only problem with this pick, I thought their wide receiver room is just really, really weak. And I mean, they got Zay Jones starting for them. Keep that in mind, Zay Jones. And I just feel like the wide receiver room, the offensive line needed more help than edge, especially after you draft a guy and Walter Nolan who can play both edge and defensive tackle. I mean, you got guys like Zach Robinson, or like, is it Darius Robinson, Zach Robinson, Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat. Jordan Burks, he could be a really good player. He can take over for Campbell next year, even. But it's like I just feel like they could have gone some other directions here. But I still think it's a really good pick. So I still gave it a B plus, but just some other options they could have explored. Next up, Cody Simon at 115, linebacker out of Ohio State, one of the leaders of that Ohio State linebacking room. It's not a bad pick, but at 115, you had Jalen Royals, Alec Eilmanor, Marcus Imbow, all would have been better picks than this, in my opinion. I mean, that people don't understand, man. Michael Wilson and Zay Jones probably combined for like 550 or 600 yards last season. And those guys are starting for the Cardinals. So it's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like they could have made some major improvements at other areas compared to drafting a linebacker who, he's solid. No, but when people talk about Cody Simon, nobody talks about, oh, this guy, this all pro coach, they say things like he's a good leader. He has all the intangibles. No disrespect, those are valuable. But it's like Cody Simon, he's not talked about the way he's talked about because he's a stud all pro level of talent, right? Let's just be honest about that. Um, Back to back Ohio State players, they draft Denzel Burke at 174. I don't really see the need to double dip here at cornerback, especially when you're double dipping on a guy. Denzel Burke, man, you want to talk about a season crippling your draft stock. Denzel Burke was talked about as a late first, early second round guy last season. He got cooked and fucking sauteed last year a lot at Ohio State. So his stock fell from first, second round to sixth round, I think, whatever he got drafted at here. It was rough. And also on the board, Cam Williams, Jimmy Horn, LaJohntay Wester, all would have been better picks, in my opinion. Just to name three there for you. Next up, Hayden Connor, offensive lineman, Texas. I think he's a guard, actually. So I gave this a B. I don't think it's a steal or anything like that, but I do think you addressed offensive line with a player who will make the roster. So I gave that a B just based on principle. Next up, Keaton Crawford, safety out of Nevada, gave this one a B plus. Great value here to get a guy in the seventh round who I think ESPN had a fifth round grade on him. Safety is definitely not a strength. You got Jalen Thompson starting next to Budda Baker, so I think Keaton Crawford can work his way up rather quickly. So pretty good value there. With two seventh rounders to walk away with a B and a B plus for me, that's some pretty good late round drafting there from the Cardinals. So yeah, definitely a great defensive draft for the Cardinals. I mean, they spent pretty much the entirety of their draft capital on defense, which is interesting because just like the 49ers, man, their offense is nothing to write home about. They have a lot of room for improvement. So it's kind of shocking to me that you just did not address the offense at all here in the draft. So wide receiver room is still one of the worst in the league. If you're talking about production, if you take the Cardinals wide receiver room, you add up all of their yards that they had last season, they might rank dead last in the. I'm just being honest. I mean, it was rough. It's rough last year and this year for the Cardinals wide receivers, and I think that offense may struggle going into next season. However, I can say pretty confidently the defense is going to make some strides under head coach Jonathan Gannon. So they get a 6.14, which is a good draft, but obviously they left some things to be desired. Next up, got to clear my throat for this pause. My Seattle Seahawks. Listen, everybody has been talking about the Seahawks for having one of, if not the best drafts in the league. I am not going to sit here and deny that. However, I am also not going to just sit down and glaze the Seahawks for 3 or 4 minutes just because I'm a fan. I'm going to be brutally honest about what picks I liked, what picks I didn't like, and we're going to break down every single one of these. So, starting off, Gray Zabel, I love this guy. I honestly, if you listen, if you asked me, and I told my friend this the night we drafted, if you would have asked me before the draft, who is one guy, if you're the GM, who would you take at 18 if you're the Seattle Seahawks? Gray Zabel. It was dead. It was Gray Zabel. I wanted nobody else. Gray Zabel, the best interior offensive line prospect in the draft, bar none. Maybe some competition from Tyler Johnson, but I think Gray Zabel, or Tyler Booker, sorry. I would rather have Gray Zabel. If we had the number 10 pick, who got drafted number 9? Kelvin Banks. Yeah. If we had the number 10 pick, I still would have drafted Gray Zabel, bar none. I think he's that versatile. We got a guy who can play all 5 positions on the offensive line on a team whose offensive line has sucked for years. Ever since we won the Super Bowl, really, our offensive line has just fallen off a cliff. Gray Zabel, I think, plug and play, left guard, right guard, doesn't matter. I just see the Pro Bowl, All Pro, Hall of Fame potential. I just do. He was dominant at the FCS level at tackle. He doesn't have necessarily the size to play tackle at the next level, but I see a mauler. I see a guy who loves football. He checks every box. That's why I gave it an A plus, because you look at a team, show me the teams in the first round that got a plug and play day one starter at their biggest, keep in mind, biggest position of need. Gray Zabel of the Seahawks might be the best of all the teams in the first round. Honestly, I'm being serious here. If I wasn't a Seahawks fan, I'd say the same thing. So yeah, A plus, Seahawks, Gray Zabel, best pick of the draft. Honestly, I could have cried because the last 2 drafts, no disrespect, Devon Witherspoon, I was wrong about. But the last two drafts, our first pick, I wasn't feeling it, man. I really was not feeling it, especially last year with Byron Murphy. I was really not feeling it last year, and I have not been proven wrong yet about Byron Murphy. But man, Gray Zabel first round, we used to pray for times like this, man. It really helped. It really had me emotional, damn near, when we drafted Gray Zabel. Gave that an A plus. Now Nick Emenwari at 30. This is a shocker because we had number 52, 50. We trade all the way up. I think it was with the Bears, the Titans, to draft Nick Emenwari at number 35. I have no way to prove this, but I just had a feeling that we were gonna draft Nick Emenwari this season. And it just maybe it wasn't at 18. I was hoping it wasn't at 18, but man, the fact that we got this guy, uh, I love it. I love it. We didn't give up both second round picks. We gave our second and our third, I think. It was worth it. I give this an A. Nick Emenwari is the not one of the most athletic player out of all the players that were eligible this year. He is one of the most athletically gifted freaks I have ever seen. Look up his numbers from the combine. I believe he was first in the 10-yard split. He was first in the vertical. He was first in some other drill. And I think he had the most bench press reps of any safety. This guy is a problem. And if he just, and he's not a bad player anyway, just based off his talent, he's like a third round pick at as a safety. But when you add in the fact that this guy is an athletic monster, like he was built in a lab somewhere, then you look at him and say, oh yeah, this guy has the potential to be an all pro generational talent, right? And in Mike McDonald's defense, you just look at it and say, oh, this guy is Kyle Hamilton 2.0, right? That's what I'm thinking. Now, safety, it wasn't a need for us. Like if we didn't draft a safety in this class, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. We spent that pick on other areas. We got Kobe Bryant back there, who played good last year in the safety role. Do I think Nick Emenwari could win that job day one? Absolutely. Kobe Bryant is not he's not safe at safety. Let's put it like that. Nick Emenwari, what's his name? Jordan Love, not Jordan Love, Julian Love. I'm very happy with that. Very satisfied with those two guys as my safeties. Only reason this is not an A plus. Luther Burden was on the board. If we drafted Luther Burden at 35, I might have felt a little happier. Then just a little, just slight. I really like Luther Burden, man. So yeah, Nick Emenwari, 35, good value. I love it. A, give that pick an A. Next up, Elijah Arroyo, number 50. I like the value. I definitely think with the run that happened on tight ends in the second round, if you will, I think getting Arroyo at 50 is good value. I think our tight end position, again, tight end was one of those spots where I didn't think we'd draft one, but I can see why. Noah Fant has been a disappointment. He'll be gone next season. AJ Barner has been a pretty impressive rookie. He was like a fifth, sixth round pick who had like 4 touchdowns last year. He was an interesting guy to see. But yeah, those two guys are not enough to pass on drafting it. A guy like Elijah Arroyo. Trey Harris was available. I would have rather had Trey Harris. I was circling Trey Harris. I was hoping we drafted him at 50. And I think he got drafted like 52 or something like that. But yeah, Elijah Arroyo, I could see him being on the field a lot next season. I could see him being because here's the thing, right? What I wanted with this pick was an option in the pass game. We got an option in the pass game. I think he led all tight ends in terms of yards per catch or something like that. He is a very massive deep threat where he was last year at Miami. I think he'll be the same thing. I think he'll open up the offense, give us a weapon at the tight end position that we have not had since fucking Jimmy Graham, which feels like that was almost a fever dream. Jimmy Graham on the Seahawks. But yeah, man, I give it a B plus. I understand there were other guys here, receivers that could have been day one stars for us, but I definitely see the potential and I see the vision here. So I give it a B plus for us. Moving on, Jalen Milroe at 92. Definitely one of the most controversial picks. Like depending on how you see this pick is how you like would grade the Seahawks draft overall. I think. And let me explain why I like this pick. It's great value. Jalen Milroe was in my top 50 overall players. I think he's better than Jackson Dart. The Giants spent a first round pick on Jackson Dart. We spent the third round pick on Jalen Milroe. And I feel like what the Falcons were trying to do last season is what we just did with this Jalen Milroe pick, right? Because the Falcons last year drafted a guy who they saw as their eventual future franchise quarterback. But they had a guy starting who they thought could take them to the playoffs and make a deep playoff run with. They were wrong about Kirk Cousins. I don't think we're going to be wrong about Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold's better than Kirk Cousins. He's younger, he's more affordable, and I just think he'll fit better in our system than Kirk Cousins did in Atlanta. And also, we didn't spend the number 8, 9 overall pick on the backup quarterback. We spent a third round pick on our backup quarterback. Now, Jalen Milrow specifically for a second. First of all, by the way, if you would have told me in the middle of October that we'd get Jalen Milrow, I'd be fucking doing jumping jacks over here in the corner. I'd be fucking like astonished. So obviously his play during last college football season varied up and down. At one point, he was the number one overall pick. Now all of a sudden he can't play football. Obviously, people are going to be fickle and extremely reactionary. I think the guy's a talented player, exceptional athlete who needs to get better, make some better decision making. I think he needs to be able to stand firm in the pocket and make tough throws downfield. He has a strong arm. Not the most accurate deep ball throw, even though some people say his deep ball is his best attribute as a passer. He can improve, right? He obviously has room for growth as a pocket passing quarterback, but he has exceptional God given athletic traits that you cannot teach. And I just think him being able to sit for a year or two or three for that matter. I mean, look how long Jordan Love sat for the Packers and still was successful. So it's like, if nothing, it's a win win scenario, right? It's either he does not play because Sam Darnold is so successful, or he has to come in because the Sam Darnold thing didn't work out. And yeah, it's just you get a starting quarterback with a third round pick. It's like I just don't see a way where this pick is like we don't get some sort of value out of it, right? Because it's a third round pick on a potential quarterback. It's just I love it. I love it. Would I have liked Shedeur more? Not sure. He does not have the elite trait that Jalen Milrow has, which is his athleticism. So I'm not sure, but I give this a B plus. I like it, don't love it. But here's some other guys that we could have had that would have played more of an impact in year one than Jalen Milrow. Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia, would have been our starting center. Ty Felton, wide receiver out of Maryland. Danny Stutzman, linebacker out of Oklahoma. Cody Simon, Jack Sawyer, Quincy Riley, cornerback out of Louisville. Jalen Royals, Alec Ironman. All of those guys would have come in and I think played a bigger role than Jalen Milrow year one. But, we made this decision to roll with it. So, I'm not mad at it. Next up, Riley Mills, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. I did not like this one. He tore his ACL last season, if I'm not mistaken, so he might not even play next year for us. But even if he does, he's an injured defensive tackle. I didn't think the value was there. I think it was a bit of a reach. And also, some offensive linemen, some offensive guards who I think could have started for us that we did not draft because we picked Riley Mills. Marcus Imbow, offensive guard out of Purdue. Miles Frazier, offensive guard out of LSU. Both guys had third round grades on them, and we passed on them for an injured defensive tackle, who, even if he's healthy, will not get reps over Jarran Reed or Leonard Williams. I don't love it. Don't love it at all. Or Byron Murphy, by the way. So it's like our number 4 defensive tackle coming off an injury or a potential day one starting offensive guard. This was a miss of a pick. Only reason I give it a C plus is because when he was healthy, he was really good for Notre Dame, led them in sacks last season, even though he only played like half the year. But yeah, don't love the pick whatsoever. And by the way, some other defensive guys that we could have had here. Bossa, linebacker out of Oregon. Smile London, linebacker out of Georgia. Za Frazier, Tyreek Woolen 2.0, boundary corner out of UTSA. So just a couple more guys we could have had here. Reason I didn't like this pick. Torrey Horton, number 166, give it an A. Our steal of the draft. This guy had a second or third round grade on him, depending on who you ask. When we get him at number 166, position of need certainly was wide receiver. I'm kind of shocked we waited this long to draft a wide receiver. But man, did we get a steal? Absolutely. Potential day one starter. The only guys Torrey Horton has to beat out to be a starting receiver for the Seahawks are Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Jake Bobo. Now, I love Jake Bobo, but that is not stiff competition when it comes to being, the starting X receiver for an NFL team. That's kind of shocking to me that that's all we got out there. And what's his name? Cooper Kupp is a walking hospital at this point. I mean, so let's just say he's hurt, then there's another opportunity, even more likely in my eyes, that Torrey Horton sees the field early on. So it's like, I think Torrey Horton is going to be an extremely productive player for us in year one. So I love the pick, man. Um, Borderline thinking of giving it an A plus, honestly, but I gave it an A. Uh, yeah, our biggest steal of the draft without a shadow of a doubt. I love this pick. Now, number 175, we draft Robbie Oates, tight end slash fullback out of Alabama. Spending a fifth round pick on a fullback, that's something right there. Um, some guys that were available: Dorian Strong, cornerback out of Virginia Tech; Cam Williams, offensive tackle out of Texas. I mean, man, like really, we're really drafting a fullback here. We didn't draft a single cornerback, by the way, which we need. I mean, it's a C. It's our worst pick. What do you want me to say to try and justify taking a fullback in the fifth round? I mean, I understand we got a new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, I believe. He does use some fullback. So, I mean, he might actually play for us and be a pretty significant blocker and things like that. But, I mean, man, fifth round pick on a fullback. Do you really think he wouldn't have been there in the seventh round? I mean, like, really? Do we really think he wouldn't have been there? That's tough for me to believe a little bit. So yeah, did not love that pick. Next up, though, I thought we did really well. I thought we did really well with our sixth and seventh round picks. First, we got Bryce Cabeldue, offensive guard out of Kansas. He was not some steal. He wasn't anything like that. I don't believe he'll be a starter for us, but good depth at the position. We desperately need other guys just competing for that spot. So I gave it a B just off principle of drafting position of need. Um, Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami. I love this pick, man. For some reason, we are just really good at drafting seventh round running backs. A couple years ago was Kenny McIntosh out of Georgia. Damian Martinez, unlike Kenny McIntosh at all. This guy is a big, like 6'1", 6'2", physical running back. He is a mauler. I've been following him since he was at Oregon State. I mean, I love watching him run. He reminds me of Marshawn Lynch, like 5, 6 inches taller, but still that physical, break your will type of running style. I love it, man. He could be our RB3 or RB2 if we trade K9 or just injuries happen. Feels like K9's been missing a lot of time lately. So I think Damian Martinez, I will love to see what he does for us, especially in preseason. Next up, Mason Richmond, offensive guard out of Iowa. Same thing, exact same thing as Bryce Cabeldue. Not some steal, not some fourth, fifth round guy in terms of talent wise, but draft position of need. I like it. Gave it a B. Um, and then Ricky White. Ricky White in the seventh round, he led the country in receiving yards last season. Now, that doesn't mean a whole lot because Triple Crown winner Nick Nash went undrafted this year. They both play in the Mountain West Conference, so certainly not a lot of focus being placed on that defensive talent out there. So, no disrespect, but it's not the hardest thing, I guess, to lead the country in receiving coming out of the Mountain West. But I still like it just because the upside. We need receivers. Spent a seventh round pick on a guy who's used to being a number one receiver in college. I like it. I gave that one a B. So to summarize, day one starters on the offensive line and at receiver, in my opinion. Three developmental nightmares if they work out for us in Jalen Milroe, Nick Emenwari, and Elijah Arroyo. All three of those guys, I think, have insane potential. And Riley Mills and Robbie Outs were some pretty bad misses, in my opinion. Hey, they say a lot about our draft class. I have not seen a lot of people talk about those two guys in particular. So I think it was like 11 picks, was it not? I think it was 11. Yeah, 11 picks. I gave us a 6.5, exactly an A minus. Um, yeah, not the best draft in the league, in my opinion. I think the Falcons had a higher grade than us. I think the Giants, certainly you can make a case, were better depending on how you view Jackson Dart. So I think we had a really, really good draft. Were we the best? It just comes down to because I'm sure there's some people who like the Riley Mills pick more than me, and they like the Robbie Oots pick more than me. Maybe I'm being too harsh on some other picks, but yeah, I give us an A minus. Certainly the best in the FC West. But before I can say that for sure, let's get to the Los Angeles Rams. So they won the division last year, even though we had the same record as them and we beat them in Week 18. So still a little bit mad about that. But they did win the division last year. They won a playoff game, upsetting the Minnesota Vikings. So a pretty good season for them last year. Matthew Stafford decided to return, so they know who their quarterback is going to be moving forward. So, yeah, let's see what they do in order to kind of reload and try and make one last deep playoff run with Matthew Stafford. So they had a first round pick. I believe it was number 26 they traded down with the Falcons and they got a first round pick for the Falcons. So I'm going to count that trade, which I think was a very good trade for the Rams, as a part of this pick overall. Now, they draft tight end Terrence Ferguson at number 46. Rams fans and myself are pretty much in agreement this was not a good move at number 46 because, by the way, I think I called the Will Johnson pick earlier. I think I labeled that as 46. I believe he was number 47 overall because Terrence Ferguson was 46. This was drafted one pick before Will Johnson. I believe this pick should have been either Will Johnson or Trey Amos, even Benjamin Morrison. Was he available at this pick? I have to quickly fact check if Benjamin Morrison was available at number 46, because if he was, they should have taken him over Terrence Ferguson as well. But even if he was not available, Trey Amos and Will Johnson certainly both would have been better picks at this spot. I'm stalling for time while my ESPN app loads and I can see if Benjamin Morrison was available or not. Dear God, can this load any slower? Benjamin Morrison was available at this pick. So those three guys the Rams should have drafted over Terrence Ferguson right here. He is going to have to beat out Tyler Higbee to be the starting tight end. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I still think he'll do a lot for the Rams as a rookie. But so I pretty much I would have graded this a C plus or a B minus, but because of the great trade they made to acquire a future first round pick, I give this a B plus. So yeah, I did not like the selection, but the trade was great, so I give it a B plus overall. Next up, Josiah Stewart, edge rusher out of Miami. Didn't need an edge, man. Not in my opinion. You got Jared Verse, you got Byron Young. I feel like you're pretty happy with that if you're a Rams fan, but I think the value is good. Jared Wilson, center, was available right here, and Xavier Watts, safety, out of Notre Dame. Both players who I think would have been better picks right here than Josiah Stewart. I gave this a B because I think it's good value. I think he might be, a part of your edge rotation, but certainly not a position that I thought they should have addressed here with one of their first two picks. Next up, one of the worst picks, honestly, in the entire draft, Jarquez Hunter at 117. First of all, the Rams are a team who overwhelmingly, like their RB1 gets just about more touches than any, like they are not a running back by committee team. Keep that in mind here because Kyren Williams overwhelmingly got the most touches of their running back room. And they spent a third round pick last year on Blake Corum. So Blake Corum barely got any touches last year in the Rams running back room. So you spend your third pick on a guy who is just going to do nothing for you next season. Even if Kyren Williams goes down, then they're just going to shift it over to Blake Corum getting the wide majority of the touches. Like I am baffled by this pick, honestly, because you spend your third pick on a guy who is not going to do anything for you. I think it's a bit of a reach, no disrespect, but there was a lot of good running backs in this class. I would not have drafted Jarquez Hunter here at this spot, even if I was drafting a running back. Here's the guys that you passed on. And keep in mind, this is the Rams team where the fans were begging for a cornerback. They passed on Quincy Riley, cornerback out of Louisville, Za Frazier, cornerback out of UTSA, Marcus Mbaugh is the team whose offensive line is not perfect. Marcus Mbaugh, they pass on him. And also, they pass on Shedeur Sanders. They have no plans for what they're going to do after Stafford retires. Like I said, just going to cross that bridge when they get there. But you could have drafted Shedeur Sanders here at 117. I mean, here's the thing. If you're going to spend the pick on a guy who's not going to play, might as well draft a potential future franchise quarterback, right? I guess not. They pass on all those guys. They draft Jarquez Hunter. Terrible pick. Arguably the worst pick any NFC team has made, right up there with Tyler Shough. Okay, maybe it's not worse than that, but it's right up there. Next up, Chris Paul. I'm sorry, Ty Hamilton, linebacker, defensive tackle, out of Ohio State. I don't love this pick, man. Keep in mind, guys, the Rams defensive tackle group: Braden Fiske, Colby Young, and they brought in Poona Ford to replace the guy they lost in Michael Hudson. You got a three-man rotation at defensive tackle, some really good players. Why are you spending your fourth pick, your third and your fourth pick on guys that are just not going to see the field? And also, Ty Hamilton, he's not some stud. He's a run-stuffing defensive tackle from Ohio State, was not valued as some second round, third round, fourth round grade. This is not some steal. It's you're drafting a position that you're already really deep at. I don't get it. 3 picks in a row, you're drafting not at all positions of need. Confusing to me. I gave this a C minus. Did not like this pick. Next up, Chris Paul Jr., linebacker out of Ole Miss. Really good player. I mean, this is their steal of the draft. Arguably their best pick. Well, not even it clearly is their best pick overall. Their linebacker room is struggling. Chris Paul could come in and be a day one starter as a fifth round pick. That is a shockingly good value selection here. Arguably one of the biggest steals of the draft overall. So, for all the things I just said, Chris Paul Jr. in the fifth round, that's an A plus pick for me. Um, and then Kanata Munfield, yet again. You got two stud wide receivers, not necessarily the deepest wide receiver room in football. You lost guys like Van Jefferson, but yeah, and also the guy, what's his name? They lost a guy in the Niners as well. Forgot his name, but Demarcus Robinson. Maybe Kanata Munfield can make the roster. I don't see it personally, so I did not decide to grade that pick. But yeah, Rams only had 6 picks here, and I believe they wasted 3 of them. Cornerback did not address at all. They have, I mean, the Rams fans were just livid in the comment section. They are expecting to get absolutely shredded next year on the perimeter. And yeah, pass on the future starting quarterback for Jarquez Hunter. I am just, yeah, did not love the Rams draft at all. Give it a 5.0. That's a B minus. And yeah, 2 impact players. And that's if Terrence Ferguson wins the starting job. So yeah, I did not love the Rams draft class. Here's how it stacks up, man. NFC West overall. Seahawks, great. Cardinals, very good. Rams and the 49ers, both disappointing, in my opinion. Was there some Seahawks bias involved here? I don't know. You tell me. I thought it was very fair on the Seahawks draft. But yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, and we are moving on to the AFC starting next video. Be on the lookout for that. Y'all have a good night.